Okay, guys, welcome back to the Mario
Yeah,
Mancini show.
yeah.
Boy, do we have a special guest for you today.
Thank you
A
so
man that was in
much.
a man that was in the WWF as the Dublin Destroyer, Mr. Brian
Yes.
Donahue, a man of many
Hello,
hats.
folks.
How are you?
How are you? Nice to see you both. Listen, I just want to say it's an honor and a privilege, and I mean that from the heart, to be with you guys tonight. And Mario, congratulations on the New England Wrestling Hall of Fame and Paradise Alley, Mr. Roma, and all your dealings. That's fabulous. And Maurice, I mean, like we discussed a little before the show, you have a big fan base here in the States, and you have people that before we even connected were telling me about your show. So yeah, kudos to both of you. Yeah,
I
man.
think you're going to be the face tonight anyway, that's for sure, after comments like that making us blush.
No, I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth.
Why don't you tell everyone what you've been up to since we last spoken, and then we'll kick it back, because this guy's been working on some pretty big things, Mario.
Wow, great.
Yeah, so I've been a film and TV actor and stuntman since before WWF, and then after WWF, I continued and parlayed some things into some bigger and better projects as time went on. I just got back. I was telling Maurice, I just got back prior to the holidays, right before Christmas. I was out in California working on the film Joker 2 for a month. And prior to that, before I left New York, I was working with De Niro and Bobby Cannavale on Inappropriate Behavior, a feature coming out in October, and some various TV shows. And in between, Mario, I'm doing the real deal. I'm loading crates over at UPS for the benefits, because that's how we do it. We just work. But anyway, yeah, I've been doing a few things, and things have been, knock on wood, things have been good, and here we are tonight.
Well, God bless you, man. That's a
Thanks,
lot.
brother.
That's a lot, and we're old now, so that's a lot. You're doing a lot there.
Still banging around, still hitting it, still hitting the ground. Yeah.
I talked to Scott Wilder about going to California at the end of the month because he's
Nice.
bushwhackers.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because it's Mania week and he wants to go out there and do his thing. You know what I mean?
Fabulous.
And I'm just like, he's like, you want to come? I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like
20 years ago. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be in, I think, Middletown, New Jersey in May. And then
Nice.
you got Bruins thing in July. And,
Great.
Whatever else, Scott, I'll do Baltimore and stuff. But I don't,
Big travel. No, right?
Yeah, my daughter lives in Presque Isle, Maine. I mean, I went there this past weekend, because of the snowstorm. It took me 11 hours to get up there. It's 560 miles.
God.
So, and it took me 8.5 to get back on Sunday, and then you get up and go to work. I mean, you do that kind of stuff, and the road is kind of like second nature to us anyway.
Yeah,
so,
no, I got it. Yep. It was nothing jumping in a car or a van. Well, we used to grab the vans with Sonny Blaze and Chris Michaels and the crew, Mike Fiore. We used to jump in the vans. My wife was the only one that was halfway normal, so she would rent us one of those big with the captain's chairs vans and everything. We'd all pile in there and head up. Well, that's when I first saw you. And I was telling Maurice before the show, before you came on, actually, that you were always, to me, a gentleman and very receptive. And you had a lot of years under your belt at that point. And I just wanted to tell you, I respect that and I appreciate that.
No, listen, I it's like, a friend I went to grammar school with, known for 46 years.
Yeah.
Gets a hold of me a couple of weeks ago, says, my daughter wants to be a pro wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
So they come into Paradise Alley, they sit down, but as they sit down, the wrestlers are coming in one by one.
Yeah.
Walking up to my buddy and their daughter and going, hi, I'm so-and-so. Hi, how are you? And he's kind of like thrown back a little bit because he's like, why are all these people coming in and shaking my, and I had explained to him that that's the etiquette of the business and the respect. And if you think there's respect in martial arts, it pales in comparison to pro wrestling.
Yes, sir.
So, I Brian, I never bought into the bullshit. I never bought into it. In fact, I still don't.
Right.
Big Daddy yells at me all the time because of it.
Okay.
Yeah, Mario, like I'm on a dating site, right? A couple of them. He's like, you're the Undertaker's debut match, King Kong Bundy, Hercules Hernandez
Yeah. Yeah.
station. You're in the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and you're on a dating site. I'm like, yeah. You know, it's like
I got you. I got you.
we're bought into the bullshit. So I was happy. I was always happy to be there, always. So when guys came in, for one thing, when guys came in, I don't know if I was gonna see them for one night or I was gonna see them again.
Right.
So, I was always very gracious and respectful to everybody that came in. I'd even try to give advice
Right.
to people that are coming in. I even gave advice to Jimmy Hellwig when he first came in, when I met him in Texas.
Great.
That was his first night there.
Wow.
And here I am, this little nothing.
No, see, you know what I find with you, which I think is appealing. I think Maurice will agree that you in a good way are self-deprecating. Like you've never given yourself a pat on the back.
Nah,
never,
nah,
and you never did
nah.
then. And from the interviews I've seen you doing with Maurice, you still don't.
No,
which is, 2 thumbs up to you for that. All
No.
these years, and you haven't changed that mindset.
no.
That's fabulous.
But
He's still my 2 highest viewed podcasts on YouTube.
Wow.
So,
And I've had a lot of celebrities and porn stars and various different people on, and Mario is still top.
You know, Mario, you're killing the porn stars. Outstanding.
birthday, June 21st. I'm expecting Nina Hartley.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so I'm looking Jimmy up and down, and at that point he's still the Dingo Warrior. I shake his hand. I go, wow, you're built like a brick shit house. He said, oh my God.
Yeah.
I said, listen, when you go out there, don't sell anything.
Right.
Don't sell nothing. I said, it'd be like a flea on you. Don't register.
Right.
Don't even register anything. Forget about selling. Don't even register anything.
Right.
So he goes out there, whoever he's working with, the jobber hits him in his stomach and he registers. And he comes back. And I look to the left, and Pat Patterson's running down toward him like he's got a blue suit and red cape on.
Yeah.
And I stand back, and Jimmy turns around, and Pat goes, hey, don't sell anything. Don't sell nothing.
Jeez, I've heard that before. Yeah.
He goes, don't sell a thing. And Pat walked away, and Jimmy went, and he looked at me. I went,
yeah.
Don't sell anything, So
right.
It's like Valentine's favorite story of when I broke in July 31st of 84 was my first match, and it was in Poughkeepsie on TV with Valentine. And I said, can I get a comeback? And he said, absolutely. I said, great. What can I do? He said, after you submit to the figure 4, get up from the canvas and come back to the dressing room. And I went, okay. Yeah.
Back into the locker room. Yeah.
But listen, I always rooted for everybody. Like people ask me about Barry Horowitz. You know what I mean? You think he should be in the Hall of Fame, and I do think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And the reason why I kind of slight myself is because when I walked in there, I was 5'10", in bare feet, and 5'11" and a half with an inch and a half wedge on my and if people really ask us why we didn't go farther than what we did, is because we were in the land of the giants.
Of course.
But you were a big guy.
Yeah.
You were a big guy. So, I always, and it really upsets me because, and I think Maurice likes me having on his podcast, because any podcasts, because I'm pulling punches at all.
No, so, good.
as you know, Maurice, when Brian and I were in, you either were bloodborne or you were just out of the norm, so enormous and so huge that you were bigger than life,
Right.
or you were gay. Those were the three ways to get a break. So even if you got a guy that's talented like Brian, he's got the size, he's got the look, he's got the chops. If you dared put a microphone in front of him, he probably can cut a really good promo. Just never got the chance.
Right.
Because of those three factors.
Right.
You never got the chance. This is why, Maurice, when the other guys come up that were in our position and saying Vince McMahon's going, "Hey, pal, come here." I'm like, what? What? I might have spoken to Vince McMahon four times in 8 years. And one time was on Tuesday Night Titans. The other three were, you know what I mean? So, like, I watched what Maurice sent me today, and I got out either I which is not my norm to have a brain deficiency, but I remembered the last day I walked out of there, I made sure I remembered. And to my knowledge, my last day was April 26th, 1992. And I worked with Rick Rude in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah.
Before that, I worked with the Honky Tonk Man in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, fans will pop on here and go, "No, Mario, that match was in 91 with Rick Rude. You left in 91." And a lot of stats say from 84 to 91. But my memory has me to 92. Now, the stuff I watched with you was after I left. Right. So how long were you there for?
I was just shy of 2. I was 2 years, say.
So
91 and 2.
You were there 91 and 92.
Right, correct.
I remember you in the dressing room. I do.
No, I used to talk to you.
I don't, Maurice, but I do remember.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. Yeah, I mean,
only because of his hair. I remember big guy.
Now listen, my hair, my wife and I used to think, well, geez, these guys, you got to have something different, something special. So I decided I'd go, instead of going to a professional and having them put a little color in there, lighten that hair up a little bit, whatever. I decided I'd get the stuff in the box from the Stop and Shop. And I said, but I didn't know, you're not supposed to do that 3 times in a week. So by the time I got, my hair was almost green, it was blonde, it was purple, it was, I had some shining locks back then, and I had the mullet going.
Yeah, that's it.
And that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And you were a big guy.
Yeah.
You were a big guy. So, and, Strongbow brought me up in the business, and Strongbow kept you humble. He kept you humble all the time. So, he was like my second dad. So, I do remember you though, but you were there. I was still there in 91. So you went 91 to 92, 91 to 92.
Yes.
Because as of 1994, the jobbers were gone.
That had the whole dynamic of everything had changed, correct?
Yeah.
So in other words, the days of us jumping in vans and cars, and you guys coming up from Connecticut, us coming out of New York, and we're not talking just driving down the street. We're talking about driving up to Canada and down south, all over the place.
Right.
I mean, we were everywhere. Erie, Pennsylvania. I mean, you got to know the waitresses' names in the restaurants, and because you were there. It was like a rotation. You kept going and going, and we would travel, 1,000 miles. And it was not, like you said back then. It was nothing. We jump in that car and just drive.
Oh yeah. Without a doubt.
Sure.
So that was
Brian, you should tell him the story about how you came up with the name the Dublin Destroyer. Mario would enjoy that story. Okay. I know you told it last time. but it's really good.
But you know what? My wife and I discussed it, and I had talked about the tailor making the jacket and the whole thing. But I'm going to tell you exactly what happened now, because sometimes years get foggy. Anyway, as you know, we're going in, we're coming, we're working. You're getting that call. You're with the 2, 3, 4 days, maybe 3 days generally, and you're in Erie. You're going from Rochester, Utica, all those spots up to Maine. Then you do the Worcester Centrum, Springfield, all that. Maybe Canada. You hit Ottawa, Conway. Well, we were, I believe, in Ottawa, and I was working the nightclubs then just to make a few extra dollars on the weekend here in Long Island, New York. And these gentlemen had a friend with them. And actually, he was kind of off by himself, but he was a tailor. And he said, well, I do some, beautiful, clothing and this and that. He goes, and you're the guy, I've seen you on TV with the WWF, and I'd love to make you a jacket. And he goes, do you have a name? Well, my wife and I had discussed it for quite a while. And I said, well, geez, you know how it is. You don't give yourself a name. They're going to give you what they're going to give you. And they're not going to broadcast it on their shows unless it's cleared with everyone. Well, I said to the gentleman, I said, well, and I was going to pay him if he made me a jacket, whatever. I said, it might be good to put a little flash in it. And, I said, we were thinking, you got the British Bulldog, you got Roddy Piper, you got this with all these double consonant thing. And I said, well, Irish. I said, and my wife said, how about the Dublin Destroyer? And I said, that's got a ring to it. So I told this guy that. I said, the Dublin, well, I'm not thinking anything of it. We were just in conversation. Well, boom. All of a sudden he brings a jacket like a week or so later, and I had already booked to go up to Canada during that week. And he brought this beautiful ring jacket, and I still have it in the closet here, and with the Dublin Destroyer on the back. So we actually put the name we said on the back, and I'm up there, and I'm literally in that. Now I don't know if you were. I don't think you were there then. I think you might have moved on, but it was. I'm in the ring, and Mike McGirt is doing the announcing, and I kind of said, and she covered her mic, and I said, before she announced me, I said, I'm the Dublin Destroyer tonight. She went, us? I said, and I turned and showed her the jacket, and she goes, is this cleared with Vince? Is this cleared? I didn't hear anything about this. I go, no, I was going to say, yeah, but I said, don't lie. I said, not really, but I said, I'm sure they'll love it. So she had them call it in, whoever she had to talk to. And all of a sudden she turned and she said, ladies and gentlemen, currently in the ring. And she looked at me and shook her head like, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, currently in the ring at 6'4", 285 pounds of crushing Irish power, the Dublin Destroyer. Oh, yeah. So they gave me that courtesy. They gave me that respect to let me have a name. And, it was what it was. But you know what? For me, it worked because, I don't like to self-promote, and I never have. But, who would ever promote themselves like this? Mario.
You got your own card there.
Oh, I got my cards going, and I'm not going to self-promote again, but this is you guys' show. But the Brian Donahue story, okay? It's
yes,
on
I
YouTube.
sent that to Mario.
Have you seen that, Maurice? Yeah. And, a film group ran into me at a film festival, and they said, listen, we'd love to maybe put together something, maybe a documentary, public interest, human interest type of 5-minute thing. It turned out to be a couple of year process, but the director, E.J. McClevey Fisher, put together this 20-minute documentary, and it won awards at film festivals all over the country, and it went international. So, you never know where things are going to come from. And I did hear when you guys did a show, and did say things stick out, and someone said to you, someone asked you, Mr. Mancini, they said, well, you're on, TV, but you lose. And you said to them, and I had that mindset from day one with them. Yeah, but I'm losing on the biggest promotion in the world.
Yeah.
Like I said, I started out, I was doing the small shows in the high schools and the small little colleges and the different show, where the ring was half falling apart because it wasn't put together quite right. There was no pads. It was something.
You're
But
horrible.
I said, when I had the opportunity to go with WWF, I said, you know what? I said, I'm in. Because all of a sudden the lights hit, and guess what? On a Saturday or Sunday in the afternoon, boom, there you were on national, and then parlaying to international exposure. So it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I agree with you there. I mean, it was what it was. And like you said, the gentlemen, the people involved. I mean, the staff and Tony Gurria and Rene Goulet, Arnold Skoland, Lord Alfred Hayes, the whole Mike McGurd, Howard Finkel, and God bless him, Mean Gene Okerlund. I mean, I remember sitting in Erie, Pennsylvania, and like you say, you got to be around them long enough that they took you under their wing, and everybody would give, and that's what you did with me, and I appreciate that again. But that's what these people will like there. I mean, Mean Gene Okerlund, I am sitting, and I think we talked about this, Maurice. I am sitting in Erie, Pennsylvania, early morning. No one else is up. I am sitting there in a little log cabin. It was called the Log Cabin Cafe, having breakfast. And all of a sudden, Mean Gene comes in. And he goes, Dublin, would you mind if I joined you? And I said, no, of course, sir. Boy, are you kidding me? Mean Gene, he's going to give you gems just chatting. He's going to tell you great stuff. Yeah. So I was sitting there. I was all excited. I'm sitting with Mean Gene Okerlund. And I'm sitting there, and the waitress comes over. I had already ordered. And I was like, well, you know these guys better than I do, so you can appreciate it. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, Mean Gene sits down, and she goes, would you like a menu, sir? And he says, no, I think I'm good. And she goes, can I take your order? The gentleman's already ordered. And he says, and this is Gene, early morning, 6 o'clock in the morning in Erie, Pennsylvania. He says, I think I'm going to have the 3-egg omelet with a side of white toast and an orange juice and black coffee. And I go, Mr. Oakland, do you know that you're announcing your breakfast right now? That's great. But anyway, these are good memories.
Yeah.
Lord Alfred. I mean, I actually, I've got to give it again. The name was cleared. Now, at one point, there was nowhere to train because we were training at Gleason's in Brooklyn, and they had more of the boxing type deal going on there, and they were getting a big push with the boxing at the time. So we were kind of squeezed out. There wasn't room for a wrestling ring in there or wrestlers. So we were like, well, what do we do? Well, everybody kind of scattered. Well, I still wanted to stay up on my stuff and try to figure something out. I didn't really know where to turn. And I asked, do you think I could go? I know up in the warehouse up in Stamford, they had where they do all the, they at that point, now it's a big fancy, like it's going to be a museum or something, whatever I saw on TV. But at that point, it was a giant warehouse, and they were, and
I think the Undertaker just tried to take him. Oh, he's back.
The Undertaker got you by the neck first match. And so I said, do you think it would be okay if I came up there? Because I knew they had a ring set up in the warehouse where they did all the merchandising, distributing. And I went up there on a Tuesday night. One day I took a ride, 45-minute ride, and a 45-mile ride. I get up there, and I went in, and the lady's sitting there. And I said, hi, how are you? I'm Brian Donahue of the Dublin Destroyer. And I was like, geez, I'm going to have to talk my way in and explain. And then she goes, oh, yes. And she had me on a list. She goes, yes, Mr. McMahon has cleared it. You can come in. I mean, they just don't let anyone walk around their place. I was in there training in a ring by myself. I was using a sweatshirt as an opponent, so I had something to land on, so I have a visual. And while I'm there, guys were coming to do their promos and their on-air prime time and all that stuff. They were doing their tapings. Well, all of a sudden, I'm turning around and Macho Man walks in. Then I was like, Kerry, all these different guys are coming in and out. Because I used to go up at least once, twice a week. And these guys would walk in and they go, here, you got to do this with it. Terry Garvin walks in. And then I'm over there. Lott Alfred is giving me gems. He's talking to me. And Sean Mooney was up there because they were doing all the spots. And so no matter what, win, lose, or draw, it didn't matter to me because I was, like you said, sir, involved with one of the biggest and best promotions ever in the history of the business. And to me, I won just by being there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a story there.
Yeah, true stuff.
That's a hell of a story.
Yeah. It was great.
Someone says here, I would
The
have given
warehouse
Brian,
right across from corporate, right? You know, on the other side of the way. I mean, I couldn't find it now, but it's across and then down like a little windy country. You wouldn't even know it was there. I don't think it was just
Right.
there were these big buildings, and there I was. And yeah, they had no problem with me going in there and working out, doing my thing, and yeah, it was wonderful. But yeah, cool.
there's two comments in here. Somebody said, I would have given Brian Donahue a title push if I was a booker back in the day. Dude had potential. That's Ian. He's a follower of the show. And one of Mario's friends has a question here, the Guardian of Chaos. Can you relay any stories from your days in the UVF?
UWF? Was it Herb Abrams?
UWF, yeah, sorry.
That's Herb Abrams' group. Yeah, let me tell you. I hooked in with Herb Abrams' group, and they were filming for Sports Channel at the Penta Hotel right across from the Madison Square Garden. So I went in there, and you got to work. There were some big hitters in there, though. Brian Blair was there, and Dr. Death was there. I mean, all these guys were there. Morocco showed up. You know, so he was pulling in some quality talent, and his booker, though, or his matchmaker, I guess you call the matchmaker, was his brother-in-law or something. It was like, okay, and Bruno's over there, and Greg Valentine was there, and Bruno's over there, and I look, and the brother-in-law is talking to me, and nice man. I'm not downing anyone, but I don't think he quite knew. It wasn't Renee, and it wasn't Skolin, and it wasn't Patterson, and it wasn't these guys. They were trying to figure it out. They had the money to do it, but it was more. This isn't a hobby type thing. Well, from doing your own promotions and doing your own school, you gotta know. You gotta have years in
psychology.
It was just chaos. Who was going with who? But again, they were pleasant, and I appreciated being there. And also worked with ICW Tony Atlas. But I said with the Savoldis as ICW up in and I remember them talking to me at one of these, like I said, these smaller matches at one of these high schools. And one of them was there, and he said, I want to bring you up to, we were up in, I have to go like that. One of the, what's it called? Sleepy Hollow, the Ossining or the Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman. And they brought me in there. Well, my first match was going to be a title match against Tony for the heavyweight championship of the world. Well, I get in, and Savoldi, one of the, I think it was Tommy, he's in the ring as the ref with a cigarette. And I was like, where am I? And he goes, how you doing, kid? And I go, good. How you doing? He's on the mic. I go, this is a crazy place. And Tony, it worked with him, and he ends up giving me the bulldog, and boom, busted. I think I broke my nose that night. Whatever. It is what it is. But I mean, just interesting experiences. But you know what? I chalked those all up to what they were, experiences. And but I mean, again, going back to it, WWF. I mean, it wasn't going to get better than that, and it was what it was. And getting a push, not getting a push, I mean, they actually had me out there. They in Canada, in Cornwall, Canada, they had me out there, and they brought some kid in, and one of the jobbers, just same as me, and brought him in, and I was going to go over, and they just dark match, and they were going to show me. Well, at that point, I was working with a gentleman called Bobby Bold Eagle over in. We were shooting. We were back in the ring over in the Lower East Side, over in the basically projects, but we're in the cellar. It was a boys' club, but they had a ring set up for boxing and wrestling. And Bobby Cortez, Bobby Bold Eagle, he had worked with WWF for years back in the 70s and 80s, and they were showing me, they were lucha libre. They were showing me to do more high flying, and they were teaching me how to climb the turnbuckle from the outside without using my hands. And I was going to do what I called the shamrock. And the shamrock, going with the Irish theme, was going to be my opponent's down. I do a Japanese suplex. I got the guy, boom, boom, boom. I got him up on my back. I do a front roll, a front flip. He lands up facing, his feet are facing a corner. I climb the turnbuckle and do a front flip into an elbow. That was going to be the shamrock. Well, needless to say, sometimes it's hit or miss, or maybe a bounce or whatever. But I landed it that night. And Bret Hart came to me the next morning. He says, "Did Vince offer you a spot contract?" And I said, "No." I appreciate that they brought me. And he goes, and Mr. McMahon walked by, and it was him and Owen and I want to say Kerry Von Erich standing there. And they said, "Well, hey, Vince," like they didn't say give me, but they pointed like Vince, what's up? And he seemed to, I don't think he liked that they were, it's all his deal. It's his party. So you have to kind of respect that, and kind of whatever way it panned out, it panned out. But at least I felt like there was a shot at something, but you know what? It already was something. And I get that. And from listening to you talk, it made sense that, okay, yeah, I was right. It's I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys right now if I got, pissy and said, I don't know, they're not giving me a push. They're not giving me now. I'm not doing it. A few hundred here, a few hundred, whatever. But it wasn't really about the money. It was about the experience of it, and actually, progressing in it and learning. Like I said, I was green, but I was learning as I went. And the boys would give me some stuff. They'd let me work. They'd let me pound away. They'd let me, and at some points I wasn't quite knowledgeable enough, or I didn't have my skill set all the way there when I first started. So these guys would give me openings, and they're like, come on. And sometimes I wouldn't know quite, how much to give, or how much to do, or how much I could get away with doing with them. I mean, Snuka, Jimmy, freaking Superfly Snuka. I mean, he's a freaking legacy. And he says to me, I'm going to put on, left knee pad. When I go for the right one, sneak attack me, work me. And he was letting me, I pounded him 15 times before he even started to come back on me. And it was, that's great stuff. And as I'm hitting him, I'm going, Jesus Christ, Jimmy Superfly Snuka. This is outstanding.
That was a good thing about heel.
Yeah, you could, yeah.
In a heel, like Maurice today, he's like, oh, he worked with a lot of people you worked with. I'm like, no, he didn't. Because you were a heel, I was a baby face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The other side.
I worked with Brett. I worked with Earthquake. But those are about the only two people that you worked with that I worked with. But
right.
That was the great thing about being a heel, man. You always got something, because that's what would get the baby face over.
Yep. Mario, I'll tell you, Maurice, I remember them saying, I remember it was Gorilla and Vince, they were all sitting like at the table in the gorilla position, and they're sitting there talking, and they said, now you're gonna be a baby face. We want you to be a good guy. We want you to, well, I went out and the people started yelling right away, like yelling at, I don't know but it was, I had never played in football. I played in front of 100,000 people. In this, I played in front of 20. 30 people, 50 people, when I'm scattered, people are, talking to each other, not even looking at the ring. I had played that. Now, all of a sudden, you're in a place with 11, 12, 13,000, whatever it was, 12, 10,000 plus everywhere, no matter what. And all of a sudden, they're going berserk. And it's only you and the ref. Here we come. And they started throwing stuff and yelling. Oh, right away, I'm playing and I'm pointing and I'm gonna kill someone. I'm doing, and they go, all right, that changed. Okay, you're a heel, because you like to play off them. You like to go at them. You like to attack. I said, yeah, that's it. But but that was fun.
There's a lot of questions coming in here for you. I don't know if you remember this one. Memories on the 40-man battle royal that was
I
on
just glanced
Coliseum
down.
home
I
video.
saw 40-man battle royal. Yeah, that was Ottawa, Canada, and that was I remember them explaining to me how that worked, because I these shows I did. We never had I don't think anyone had a 40-man battle royal, but I had never done a battle royal. And they're like, as you go on, blah, 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 and they're explaining how it worked. And I'm okay. Well, I'm coming out there, and all of a sudden, the British Bulldog, blah, 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 blah. You're hearing the names. All of a sudden, the Dublin Destroyer, and Lord Alfred, because I think he had taken a liking, him and Sean Mooney, to me up in the warehouse when I was working out, and they liked me personally, that he was talking about me over the announcements like it was the commentary. Like I was winning everything. I was going to be the next word. Oh, there's the Dublin Destroyer. He's looking keen in his Irish, and look at that hair. And he's like, oh, he's looking fit tonight, and he's in it to win it. They kept going. And then 2 seconds later, Kerry Von Erich launches me over the top rope, and well, that does it. And Sean Mooney says, there goes the Dublin Destroyer, shillelagh and all. They have fun with it. But yeah. So it's cool, hey.
Yeah.
You worked with Hulk Hogan as well. Sorry, Mario. I'm just saying he worked with Hulk Hogan not only in the wrestling business but on TV shows as well. Right. What was he like?
Well, I'm going to tell you, he was always a gentleman. I always found him to be an absolute consummate gentleman and professional. When I was with WWF, my wife and daughter, we were down in Texas, and we went to do a little mini tour down there. We went to Corpus Christi, San Antonio, Austin, Texas, where I had played football down there. That was cool. But anyway, we're in San Antonio, and we're outside the hotel, and my daughter was 4 or 5 then, and so we've got pictures of Hulk holding up Jess, whatever. But when we went to one of the arenas, I think it must have been, San Antonio, I think, that night. We're there, and my daughter and wife are backstage with me. And like I said, my daughter was about 4 or 5 years old. And Hulk is talking to us. And he's like, hey there, how you doing, Jess? How you doing, kid? Hi, Lori, how are you? And pleasure to see you again. And all of a sudden, they're getting ready. They go, okay, Hulk's 20 seconds. And we're near the curtain. All of a sudden, he was ready to come out. And all of a sudden, they play the music. And all of a sudden, gotta go. I'll see you later. And all of a sudden, boom, and that crowd. I mean, my wife still remarks about this today, and this was 30 plus years later, how it felt like the place was going to collapse on top of us. Mark. I mean, come on. It doesn't get better than that. But,
arena shocks.
Oh, yeah. You were bouncing, and you were underneath in the concourse. But when I went down after WWF, I ended up going down. I've been doing some acting, some TV shows, different thing, commercial stuff. And I ended up going down. I got a contract with Walt Disney World. And I went down there. Yeah, the Indiana Jones live show, theme park, whatever. But when I was down there were all these stunt people living there. And some of the guys from Stunts Unlimited had moved there. Then Hulk Hogan came in with a TV series, Thunder in Paradise. And so originally they brought me in, and they had me read for some parts, whatever. But then they didn't know who they were putting where and who was getting cast in what episodes, whatever. So they said, would you be interested to get it going, just to initiate it? We're going to be doing the pilot in St. Petersburg, which is probably an hour and a half, I think, away, near Tampa, away from Orlando, where I was at Disney. So I talked to Disney and said, yeah, go, that's fine, for a couple of weeks to be Hulk's stand-in and possibly photo double. But they wanted me to go there. But it was a great move, because I got in there and I'm hanging out with Hulk, and Brutus was there, and Jimmy Hart, and everybody, all the old school guys, Jimmy the Anvil Neidhart. So we went and we hung out, and I ended up doing some stunts for the Giant Gonzalez, who was almost 8 feet tall. And they have pictures of him and me together. And I've got the fake beard and the hair like him, whatever. I looked like his kid, but he was just I was up to I was up to maybe his ribs. I mean, he was a big dude. But anyway, worked with Hulk, ended up doing I think 7 episodes out of, out of the maybe more, but playing everything from a biker to a Moroccan prison guard. They had me all wrapped up so you couldn't see my face again. And just, playing these characters with him. So I got to do that. And yeah, it was wonderful and cool stuff. But he was
Wow.
a gentleman.
There's like great experiences, man. Good for you.
It was fantastic, Mario. It was great. Yeah, man.
Good for you.
Thanks, brother. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm sure you might have something to add, Mario.
Well,
Something
listen, again, in the mid '80s, it was a lot different. Like what amazes me is, being in the ring with McGurk and her actually clearing the Dublin destroyer.
Yep.
And here I am.
Yep.
You know what I mean? In 1985.
Yeah.
With a pair of trunks that are the Italian flag.
Right.
And Pat Patterson tells me I can't wear those out there.
Really?
Oh, the Sheik complained like a little baby that those were the Iranian colors.
No.
Called Pat over, and Pat, he goes, Mancini, those are Sheiky's colors. And Pat said, yeah, you can't wear them out there.
Wow. Amazing, huh?
In '84 in house shows, I got the little packs of M&M. I throw the M&Ms out to the crowd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're gonna get sued if somebody chokes on them. You can't.
Wow.
Because I was thinking about being because I was only 18. I was gonna be like the M&M kid, right?
Yeah.
Can't throw. Somebody chokes, we'll get sued, and we have no permission from. I had the idea of being Super Mario Mancini with the hat, the tool belt.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to pay Nintendo. We can't do that. And
Jesus Christ.
Sometimes I have to wonder
it was a different time, I guess, because obviously, I mean, I'm in the ring. And I said, she covered a mic. I go, Mike, I'm doing like a ventriloquist. Mike, this is in front of 10,000 people. I go, I'm the Dublin Destroyer tonight. She goes, you're the what? What are you talking about? I go, and I turned and I pointed, and she goes, is this cleared? No one told me that. She goes, I don't have any of that on my stuff. I don't have that on here. I go, I know. She goes, I got Brian Donahue. I said, yeah, but I'd like to be called that. And she went over to the ringside, whoever she was talking to, and they buzzed in, whoever had to say yes or no. And that was it. And
you got him by surprise that night, I think.
And they say, you know what? Someone said, give it to him. Go. And that was it. I was surprised. I said, all right, this is going to be all right, here he is, Brian Donahue. And that's it with his mullet. And we're done. No. And they kept going. They let me, and that was it.
It could have been your size, man, because like I said, you're a big dude. So I
think the guys were letting me get a little more on them. And maybe maybe it balanced out. But I guess, maybe because I never pushed or squeezed them for I never asked for anything. So I think they respected the fact that I was in it. I was willing to take any hit over the rope. And whatever we got to do, we got to do it.
Well, there was only one guy I used to complain to all the time, and that was Strongbow. I mean, we would privately have arguments.
Of course, yeah.
Especially when I walked into the dressing room one night, and one particular gentleman had a torn Yankee sweatshirt on, a hat, and a cigar, and I'm like,
yeah. You're worried about my colors on my trunks, right?
Where's mine? Where's
brawler? Yeah.
Where's my gimmick? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You within a week you go from a jobber and you're over.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're over. I mean, that's what I was.
I mean, to me, it just makes it that much better. It's something. It's something there. It's visually. It's a visual thing. It's like, people can go, yeah, look at that. Yeah, the Irish guy or the Italian guy or the like you said, Mario Brothers, whatever it is, just there's something there. I remember guys, how about guys that that weren't exactly excited about their gimmicks. And I remember Dasso, was it Repo Man? I don't think he liked his thing, his gimmick. I remember him dragging his freaking hook and his rope behind him, shaking his head at me. I go, "What's wrong?" He goes, look, I look like the hamburger with the thing. Some of the guys didn't like doing, it's like they let us come up with something ourselves, and but I'm sure they did. But again, it's someone else's house, and you're invited to the party, but you're gonna obey the rules of the house, and that's it. So I got that.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I know you walk in and you see people with a gimmick, and it's like, I'm not asking for.
Well, the thing is
you probably could have come up with 50 different things.
Well, when I was in wrestling school in '83, the thing that was told us were, pay your dues.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Do what you have to do and pay your dues.
Right.
Do the right thing, and you'll get a push.
Sure. And then, push out the door.
Yeah.
Where you getting pushed to? I know. It's a push. Get out.
Push. Yeah, the push.
There's a question there. How was Macho Man and Elizabeth towards you?
They were absolutely fantastic. Let me tell you, we have pictures with them at one of the shows, and my daughter with Macho Man and Liz, and they're hugging her, and there's a belt there, whatever. But I mean, he was always very, very pleasant. He was very pleasant to me. And Elizabeth was absolutely, she was gorgeous, and she was just sweet. She had a good heart. She was a Southern girl, she had an eloquence about her. And and that was kind of sad that they had split. And my wife says to me, sometimes she thinks I'm like enamored or infatuated with people dying in our game. Well, you can't help it. I can't help it. You look up and all of a sudden, boom, except the ones you see on the news, boom, this one pops, and you see this one passed away at this age. Well, then you start looking up people. Go down that list. Go on IMDb. Go on one of these wrestling lists and go down from the years you were there, especially all those years. You go down that roster, and it's like, my God, gone.
These guys that died literally brought me to my knees. I was, the two people in particular would be Bundy and Strongbow.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So because I was really close to Chris, and that one hurt. I'm glad Tony Atlas is doing well, because he's another one of my brothers. And
yep.
And Valentine,
he was a gentleman. I liked him. It's funny because everybody has their troubles, everybody has their problems in life and different things, and I'm not singling him out, but a lot of people have troubles. But it's I remember after just an example. My wife says, "Hey, look," she goes, "this popped up on my phone or whatever, because we're on Long Island here, and it said that Lanny Poffo was going to be at the the memorabilia. Well, because you do the memorabilia store here in Long Island, and it was only 10 minutes from here, 15 minutes. And this was on a Wednesday. And she goes, he's going to be there Friday night at like 6 to 8. She goes, we should go. And he stayed at my mom's house in Boston. And when we were traveling, and my family was out of Boston, and he was on a phone or a pay phone or something. And I go, you all right? Do you need something? And he goes, no, dude. He goes, I got to get, he's very mellow. He goes, I got to get a rent-a-car. I got to get in a hotel, and I got to get to the airport, because I got to get to Logan Airport. I'm flying to another region tomorrow, and I gotta, it's just crazy. And I'm just trying to figure it out, and I'm trying to take notes in the pay phones or whatever. I said, well, where do you gotta go? And he goes, I gotta go to the airport. I go, when? Tomorrow. I go, do you mind staying in a regular house tonight? We took him home. And he sat there. We got my family up in Boston. We had Chinese food and pizza because we don't discriminate. We were eating. He goes, "Do you do this a lot?" I go, "Yeah, that's what we. My sister don't like Chinese food. That one don't like pizza, so we combine." Anyway, but back to the story. My brother sends me a text, and it was an obituary, or not obituary, but at that point, but it was saying how Lanny Poffo died, and like that Thursday. This Wednesday, we're talking about going and seeing him, and then Thursday he's gone. I couldn't
He done
even
the show the night before. Yep, he done
like
the show.
and that was it. He was done. But how many guys? I mean, I'm talking like when I was there, 30 guys minimum, and Sherry and Elizabeth and Lord Alfred and this. I'm afraid to look people up now. I'm not going to look you up. Oh, well, it's funny because I talk to people when back from the days, and sometimes I'll talk to people when I'm at Disney or whatever. I'll touch base, or they'll come and they're stunt people, so they'll show up on a set in New York, and all of a sudden they see me and they're like, "Are you still alive?" And I go, "Yeah." But just a lifestyle, different. It's the bumps and bruises, they take a toll on you too. I mean, thank you. Yeah, I mean, and people don't realize. People say, "Well, how can guys have this or CTE or this or this or that?" I said, "Because your body is getting jarred. How many bumps have you taken? I've taken an enormous amount, but you quadruple me minimum."
Every morning, man. Every morning, it's and I have people texting me, and in the morning, and I'm like, they're like, "Are you okay?" I go, "Look, man, I just need some time."
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Need to move in a little bit. That's you. Yeah,
that would be me with the time difference texting them.
Yeah, I was like, the one thing that I'm impressed about and envious at the same time is you refer to your wife.
Yes.
When you were working.
Yeah.
And you refer to your wife now.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And that's all I tried to accomplish, and I couldn't get it done. I took 3 whacks at it, and I just
all right.
That but couldn't happen. If I had, well, I got married in '86.
Yeah, us too. Yeah.
I was 20.
Yeah.
But mine lasted a whopping 11 months. And then I got married again in 93. I started dating her in 90, and I brought her to the arena. And at the time, my daughter, who I adopted when she was 7, she's 36 now. Wow. But she was 4 years old. So they're standing downstairs, across from the blue curtain that you know what I mean, before you go into the dressing room.
Yep.
Because Maurice, there was a blue curtain, and then you go through the blue curtain, and there were doors to the dressing room.
Yeah. Okay.
And a hallway, so regular people couldn't go beyond that. She was outside the blue curtain.
Right.
And Strongbow came out, and I said hello to him and everything, and we went behind the blue curtain. He goes, "Who is that?"
Yeah.
I said, "That's my girlfriend." He goes, "Is that your daughter?" I go, "No, that's her daughter. I love that little kid." He goes, "What do you want to get in a jackpot for?" He goes, "Get rid of her." I go, "What?" He goes, "Get rid of her." I go, "No, Chief, I love her. I'm not." He goes, "Mancini, get rid of her." I go, "No, Chief, I'm not." Get rid of her. He says, "Get rid of her." But man, I listen. That I look up to you a lot for that, because
listen, Sonny Blaze. All right, Sonny Blaze. He says, "Listen, they want you to come up. They want you to come up to." He was talking to Gavin. They want you to come up to the to corporate above on the expressway there. That's the only way I knew where it was. You see it when you drive up there, right? And I see the big WWF then, not WWE, WWF, old school. And they want you to come up. And this was, I said, "Why are we going up?" And he said, "Yeah, and Laurie and Jess too." I said, "Okay, that could be a good thing." But I didn't realize the way things go. We went up. We didn't meet with Vince. We met with Linda. We were sitting in Linda McMahon's office. I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't know. It's strange, right? We're sitting there, and then we went and we had lunch there in the cafeteria with her, and it was like, I don't know what. And I don't know. I think it maybe she was feeling us out as a family, whatever because it's a rough road, I think, for families, for relationship. I think I mean that's what I can surmise. But I mean, or they just wanted to bring us up for lunch, but it was different. I mean, I didn't know what we
I tell you, Maurice, all these guests that you have, I am not convinced that I was the farthest away from the office as dealing with the office any wrestler has ever been in the history of wrestling. I mean, I used to hang. I'll tell you when I used to go to the office when George Scott was the booker before Pat Patterson.
Wow, before Pat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
84, 5. I used to hang around the office. I used to talk to Ed Cohen and all those guys, but I was never invited there. I would just hit the button. Go,
to this day, I mean, I haven't talked to Sonny in I don't know how many years, but I never asked. I never even asked, what was I doing it? Why did we? Why? Because we didn't say, can we come and I want to show my wife your plan. I would never.
Did Sonny tell you how he got there?
Huh?
Did Sonny tell you how he got there?
How he got there? Yeah. No, I don't know. All I know is that he said, do you want to work WWF? Do I want to know?
So yeah, you do. So
okay. Maurice does. Maurice like
so it's 89.
Yep.
And Tony Altomar, the guy that trained me, comes up
to
me.
Sure, of course.
He goes, you want to do 3 days with Savoldi? I go, no.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
He goes, up in Maine. I go, no, I don't. He goes, why not? I go, I don't want to.
Right.
I go, listen, the only reason why you want me to go is because you'll fall asleep driving. I go, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
He goes, come on, kid.
Throws you the keys. Yeah.
He goes, come on, kid. I said, all right, Tony. I'm not doing any jobs for anyone.
Right.
Not. Right. Won't do it.
Right.
So I go, hold on. We're in the gym. I go, hold on. So I call the office. I go, let me talk to Terry Garvin.
Yep.
So he gets on the phone. Hey, Mario, quesadilla. He goes, yeah, he always said that to me. Mario, quesadilla.
I liked him a lot. Yeah, he was a good guy. Yeah,
he was. So I go, Terry, can I do 3 days for Savoldi up in Maine? I go, I don't want to get in trouble. He goes, yeah, you go ahead and do that. You could do that. So I go up there, and Savoldi comes up to me. He goes, will you do a job for Iron Mike Sharp? I went,
Mike Sharp.
All day long.
Different world. Yeah.
All day long. Yeah. Let me tell you, let me tell you something. Mike and I tear it up. We did a lot of house shows together.
Outstanding. Yeah.
I said, not a problem.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, thanks. I appreciate it. No problem. So I go over, hug Mike. I go,
sure.
Just like the old days.
Of course.
So then the second night he put me with Sonny Blaze. And
Maurice. Yeah.
So Sonny goes, what do you want to do for a finish? I go, I'll catch you off guard with a sidewalk slam.
Okay.
And we go, he's 18 years old. We go back to the dressing room. And, I shake his hand, I hug him. Thank you very much.
Yep.
He goes, that was really good. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. He goes, it was really good considering that I broke my neck. I go,
when, that night?
You broke your neck?
You?
No.
Oh. You're like,
you were there with a broken, you just recovered from a broken neck and you went in there? Are you out of your mind? He goes, yeah, well, and then we're talking a little bit and he's like, yeah, my mother just passed away. And I'm like, I go, you want to go to TV? He goes, what? I go, you want to go to TV? He goes, you can get me into TV? I go, yeah, as long as I vouch for you, I can. Nice. Because at that point, I was training people, I was bringing them to TV, like Mark Thomas and stuff, and Berg and those guys. And Pat Patterson would actually look at people and go, who trained you. It was either Walter Kowalski, Larry Sharp, or me.
Right.
And if it was one of the three people, they'd go, okay, get dressed.
Yeah.
So I go, do you want to go to TV? And he went, okay. And I brought him the TV.
Wow, that's great. Basically, Maurice, it's full circle because that means you brought me. Because Sonny talked to Gavin and brought me. So
it was.
Thank you.
And he got really close to Garvin in a man-to-man traditional way.
Good.
There was a genuine likeness as a person. No Banky there.
Okay.
As my memory serves me right, Garvin ended up giving him a ring, and Sonny made a hell of a living with that ring.
Wow.
Leasing it out and everything, going all over out. So, Sonny Blaze.
Okay, when you said he gave him a ring, I got confused for a second. I was like, what?
No, he gave him a wrestling ring.
Wrestling ring, Maurice.
So Sonny Blaze is one of my favorite people, man. He really is. I love Sonny. Sonny.
He when we first went there, I remember my first match was the British Bulldog. We're in the Worcester Center. Needless to say, the crowd's going nuts, the whole thing. And I went in and did a good job, vertical suplex, the whole thing. And I saw what he, I did what I could do with it. But I wasn't afraid to take any hit he was going to throw at me, any bump. So it worked out nice. But I remember. As we moved on, he would say, listen, he goes, Gavin wants to go here. We're going to go here. We're going to go. Great. So we kept going. And I remember when he first introduced me to you, or he goes, that's Mario Mancini. He goes, he's got a lot of years, in. He knows his way around. So if you have any questions, go to him and ask him. He'll tell you what's what. And he said that he did say it to me that he was instrumental in helping us get here. So I said, and I went over and introduced myself, but so he did give you that respect. I know he did. Yeah. So that's
he was a good kid.
And he said you would bring your group up from Connecticut or where, and then we'd come from here and they go from here. But it's not a competition thing. He goes, just try to get better yourself. And he goes, and Mario will tell you the same thing. Just try to get better yourself. And he goes, you'll find that people genuinely, because we're all kind of in the same boat. We all you have more experience, but you've been around longer, but we genuinely want each other to do well. And ideally for everyone to get a little something, a little push, because we know what the game is. We know we knew our spot. I knew my spot and I was good with that.
Why, Maurice, everything he says is true. You know why? Because you don't know. You don't know. You have no idea. So you're always respectful. You're always gracious. You're always humble, because Donahue could have beat Hogan for the strap.
Right.
There I am getting a pile driver or doing a job for the Undertaker. And all of a sudden he turns around and goes, Mario, Blaze told me that you brought him. He brought me. I want to give you a little payback for that. So I'm going to talk to Vince. You never know,
right?
Who's going to do what,
who, and how it's going to
so
itself around.
You want to be kind to everyone,
right?
And you want to root for everyone. I remember fighting with Strongbow, and I was young. I was a year in.
Yep.
Joe Murdo picked up his bag. He had tears. See you later, Mario. Saying goodbye to him. They go, where you going, Joe? Strongbow cut me. I go, what?
He was done. He was gone.
He goes, Strongbow let me go. I go, why? He goes, because he said I'm too old. So I go running up. He leaves. I go running up this. I go, Chief, what you do to Joe? Mind your business, kid.
Got it.
I go, he's a nice guy. Room with him. I go, I've been on the road with him. I go, Chief, Joe Murdo's a class. Mancini, sit your ass down and mind your own business.
Yep.
I go, Chief, this is wrong. This sucks. He goes, you want to be next? I go, no, I don't. He goes, then sit down.
Yeah, just mind your own deal. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you know,
But you're a straight shooter, so you want to back up your friend. I got it.
Les Thornton and I tried to talk David Sammartino till we blue in the face. Blue in the face. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. He went right up to Vince McMahon. I saw the hands flying and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Picked up his bag. He went, see you later. Never saw him again.
Yeah.
He saw him again.
He was in the wasn't he in did he end up with UWF?
Did I think everybody?
I think I ran into everyone ended up there. They're right. You're right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think we'll have to kind of wrap it up here at this point, but I think we need to get you gentlemen back on again, hopefully at some point.
Any time with you guys. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No
so Brian, where can people kind of follow your work then if they want to have a look at what you're up to, keep on tabs?
You could just, I mean, I have it pretty clear and concise. You could just look up my name, Brian Donahue, actor, and my stuff is all over there. And IMDb, the International Movie Database, and one thing after another, the documentary, the Brian Donahue story. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
I can scan that. Where is it? I can't do it. Look at me covering on my finger. There's the little
QR
thing.
codes and everything. This guy is really on the ball, Mario. QR.
Yeah, well,
codes.
that's my wife.
Well,
Brian, what is it? I said to someone, I gave them someone in California. I go, here, my wife put on the OR code. Operating room. What's an OR code? I go, this. They go, QR. I go, okay, yeah, that's it. I don't know.
Gentlemen, it was an absolute pleasure.
I tell you, I'm 66 pages into a screenplay that I've avoided for a while. I am up to 1993 on it. I got 30 more years to go, but if we can hook up and you can direct me where I can contact somebody to try to sell this thing, I'll be more than happy to cast your part in the movie.
There you go. Let's do it. Whatever you need to do. I can help. We can help you. Absolutely.
Terrific.
No problem. Anything you need. Absolutely.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Guys. Of course. Love.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you both. Appreciate you. Thank you.